is up, you sexy, sexy people? It is Dave. It is Duncan. Back.
You are a lot of sexy people, except you. You're not sexy.
Who, me?
You right there. You're the person that's watching it right
What
now.
did I
You
do?
know who I'm talking about. Like, we made an effort. You didn't even shower.
I'm still drinking this absolutely rotten beer from
You
the
can
first
track
review.
these back here. Dave's like, I'm on fucking can 4 or something, and Dave's still drinking some
trying to get through it.
kombucha beer concoction that's sour.
Dreadful.
Well, you know what will take the taste out of that mouth?
What?
Man called Barren Womb.
Barren Womb.
Oh, you know
That's
what
right.
a Barren Womb is? It's a good time because you can shoot as much as you want up there and nothing's coming out.
Jesus Christ.
I don't like myself about it. It saves you getting a VSAC, you know what I mean?
Too late.
So it's too.
Too late, Duncan.
Oh no.
So yeah, we are back to chat about the new album from Nordic heavy noise rockers Barren Womb.
Nordic?
Nordic.
I did not know that, but then again,
really?
I don't read the press statement.
Oh, we know. Too good for that shit. The band's new album,
Selected to lead, not to read.
not to read.
Yeah, not to read.
The new album, Chemical Tardigrade, were released on February 16th via fucking North Pole Records and Blues for the Red Sun.
This is why I don't read the press stuff, because I just like. No, Paul Records. That's on someone's CV when they change jobs. You want to explain this? No, not really. Not even a little bit. Google it.
Fucking North Pole.
Fucking North Pole bastard.
Formed in 2011 from the ashes of Like Rats from a Sinking Ship to become Barren Womb in 2011. A dualistic, nihilistic force majeure that might as well have imploded straight off the imagery launch ramp or fell off the tour trail in some godforsaken East Block city. A
I
crusty,
fucking love this. Like, why didn't I read this?
a
I
crusty,
feel like you should highlight good this is a good PR statement. You want to read this?
a crusty Houdini-worthy equivalent to the gumball disappearance of David Hasselhoff, if you may.
Crusty Houdini sounds like a horrible sex move. so, a crusty Houdini's when you get your partner pregnant and you just disappear. You go stuff. Where's he gone? I don't know. He's giving you the old crusty Houdini, has he? Aye.
By certain means, it's quite the achievement to have merely survived physically and mentally, but somehow they have. Against most odds, perhaps. Bands come and bands fold, especially those willing to undertake the most excruciating yet endearing form of DIY touring. But they have just kept on touring and releasing new albums and touring and releasing new albums. Amazing albums and touring.
You know what? I'm giving this PR a 5 out of.
And some 12 years later, they return once again with their fifth and, in the humblest of opinions, strongest one yet. The record is equally a celebration of the frail yet vigorous concept of living, an expressive act of exorcism emotionally and musically. The album was recorded and mixed late 2022, early 2023 by Eirik Øyen. Produced,
This is where we're getting to the fun bit. I've been waiting for this.
produced by Eric and Barren Womb. The album was then mastered by Alan Douches at West Music, and electronics on track 1, 6, 7 and 11 were also done by Eirik Øyen. I don't know how you pronounce
We
his name.
apologise if
So sorry.
Dave. Well, I don't know. Dave apologises for his horrible pronunciation. I just bore
Aye.
witness and smiled a little bit.
Apologise for nothing. So, Barren Womb. Some of you may have already heard this band or know of them. If you listen to the Metal Epidemic podcast on a
Which they
monthly
all
basis,
do, obviously.
obviously, we played one of their singles a few months back.
Squat walker, which I believe I said was the act of shitting yourself and waddling to the toilet. It's a squat walk.
Yeah. What do we think of the new Barren Womb album? So going from that single to the album, Duncan, what did you make of this full length?
So the Nordic thing I hadn't picked up on. Now you've mentioned it, that it does actually tie some things up. To me, this sounds like the bastard child of QOTSA, which was in my... But I was also thinking the Bronx. This reminds me a lot of early The Bronx.
Yeah.
In huge swaths. There's a wee bit of Riverhead in here as well, which we're going to get to later on track number 5. Keep it real, yeah. There's a wee bit of Riverhead in there, which I was like, oh, I wonder. But then, and once again, that's the Nordic blockade. It's all coming together like a puzzle that comes together, like jigsaw pieces that fit together, and you're like, oh, I can see a picture now. It's hard to hide my excitement about Barren Womb. Barren Womb have the scuzziest of scuzzy sims, yet hooks for days, and I don't know how they do it. I'll tell you what, like, when the first track kicked off, McLee Bass, who I'm sure has a house up from me, sounds like a Scottish name, come on, let's be honest. When that kicked in, and those... It's hard to describe. Like, the first time I listened to this, I was picking up my youngest from nursery, and I had the eldest in the car, 9-year-old. And I was kind of like that fucking Tommy work and all the rest, and then the guitars kicked in, and then the vocals kicked in, and it's this fucking shouty, about point of breaking voice tone that kicked in, and I turned around and I said to her, I was like, that vocal tone, and she looked at me as if I was insane, because she's 9, right? And, you know, listen to music like this. She was like, what? She was like, what do you like about that? And I was like, there's just something. And it seems like it's so close to breaking, but it's just held together with like little bits of sellotape and blue tack. And then the rest of the band kicked in, and it was this kind of snarly, kind of sludgy punk, for lack of a better word, kind of like with this kind of retro, almost kind of 70s kind of production on it. Kind of a little bit QOTSA. But it sounded full. Like the sound straight away just sounded like when all the band kicked in, Gan vocals and all this, was like, this sounds huge, like big, chunky, meaty, disgusting, like a fucking big bowl of horrible stew. Just like, you know, I want my day in. Like that's just like thick sounding. And I was like that, right? I'm setting myself up for a nasty ass listen.
Yeah.
And then Bug Out the Bag kicked in, and I was gang vocaling in the car. Do you really want to fuck? Like just like fucking driving along like a nutter. And it's after that track, I realised that we were onto something a wee bit special here, just a wee bit special. I think this band have captured the volatility and dankness of a small club room, but flung huge, soaring, happy, gangy vocal choruses over the top of it and made it sound like you should always be singing it. Everyone should sing at this. Even if you don't like the music, you should sing at this. And it's hard not to. Yeah. Like, they write a hook in a way which is so easy to remember, and once it's in there, it ain't ever coming out. You know, ever. But it's the dexterity on the album that really kind of shone out for me. Like, they play with a lot of different ideas and a lot of different tones. There are bits here that feel almost like kind of later day Caius, early Queens of the Stone Age. There's bits in here that reminded me of was it Our Friend in the Bronze Age, or whatever that band was from
Our Man in the Bronze Age.
Yeah, like there's a bit that there's stuff that in there that reminds me of that. There's stuff that reminds me of kind of really early day Clutch. Like when before like Neil Fallon became all like super preachy and still did a wee bit of shouting. There's bits that remind me of that. Like I said before, there's a huge swath of early day the Bronx in here. There's a wee bit of Every Time I Die. There's a wee bit of Cancer Bats, which is why I was aiming to the Northern America continent and not aiming towards the European persuasion, because I could liken them a lot to that. It's just as dank sounding, but it's like happy dank. Like if happy dank was a genre, Barren Womb would be the kings of it.
Happy Gang, yeah.
It's such an inventive album as well. Like, no two tracks side by side really sound the same, but actually the production and sound overall is what links it all. Like I mentioned before, Keep It Real is the one that kind of reminded me a little bit of Riverhead, or just the way it was structured. It had a kind of more kind of folky punky sort of style with it, with that dank guitar sound. But like, they don't even rest on that. I think D Beatles is the track that follows, which is just an all-out fucking cunt punt of a fucking punk song. Just right to the balls with a steel toe cap boot. And the other thing to take into account is the band have a wicked sense of humour. So some of the song titles are like Campfire Chemist is kind of amazing. I want a movie called Campfire Chemist. Illiterati instead of Illuminati, or Glitterati. It's Illiterati because you can't fucking read. Blackout Yoga. I'm sure I've done that a few times after a couple of recording sessions with you, Dave. Either that or I've been horribly molested. One of the two. Kind of feel like I've been stretched ways that are not normal. I also want to say, like, the album. Some of these albums like this, and when I say like this, I mean like Covert Attack have a bad habit of this, where the album was front loaded with like absolute fucking bangers that when you get to the back half of the album, you kind of feel like you've heard all the tricks. Yeah. Barren Womb don't have that. Like right up to the end, where you're going through Squat Walker, the track that we played, which we both thought was fucking great. High Fructose Napalm Syrup, which is like fucking great. And then maybe the most melodic track on here, but with the most disgusting name, Dung Lung, like closes it out fucking superbly. I actually don't think there's a bad track on here. And I think the production, which I'm now going to talk about, is what exemplifies this to the heights that it does. I think in lesser hands with maybe not the same production, with the tendency to clean a little bit of this up, it doesn't have the same impact at all. The vocal tones are savage, they're melodic in parts, kind of gang vocally. It's all mixed perfectly, but it doesn't overpower. The guitar tone is fucking rank, and I love every second of it. And the drums are just punchy. Like a punchy fucking punky drum kit. The bass is thick, you know, he's a big old thick bass, and it all works really fucking well for me. So yeah, I got to the end of Barren Womb on my first listen, I was like, that kind of fucking dig this, and it's been an easy couple of listens since. I don't necessarily think Barren Womb do anything I've not heard other bands do in isolation. I think Barren Womb are the exception to the rule in that they fit a lot of parts that sit adjacent to each other and combine them into one, which actually makes them stand out a little bit more. So I could liken them to a lot of bands, but those bands don't sound like Barren Womb. Yeah, this is fucking great. I think this is like this is see if you lost your job. There's a movie called Edmund, which I recommend everyone watch. No one fucking watched it when it came out. It's directed by a guy called Stuart Gordon, and it stars William H. Macy, who's a fucking incredible actor. And this should have been the soundtrack to that movie. William H. Macy goes to work, he's fired from work, he comes home, his wife leaves him, and then he goes out in the town, right? And he gets gets a fucking horrible state. And the movie ends with him in prison being spooned by another man, right? That's the end of the movie, right? Spoiler alert. That's Barren Womb's chemical tardigrade. Like, you start off kind of full of life and full of beans, and by the end you're about to be prison raped. It's fucking great. I think this is awesome.
Nice.
I can't believe I'd never heard of these guys before.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, even a little bit. This kind of feels like it would have come up on my radar at some point, but I'm kind of glad to be coming in at this level here because I think this is rad. How did you get on?
Well,
David
Duncan,
Buchanan?
If listeners out there have been keeping up with our reviews, you'll know that last year I spoke a lot about a certain type of band, one that I really enjoyed, and that would be a duo.
Is there only two?
This is two guys, Duncan.
Oh, fuck my hole. Right,
two
what?
guys. Guitars, drums, vocals.
I should read the fucking press.
Dos Two guys.
What are they doing? Like something with the guitars to make it sound like bass? Then
I think they might be. There's no mention of bass on this at all. So I
this
think
is too thick to like. They've got an effect pedal, or they're doing. They're maybe doing the Mantar approach where there's no bass in there, but there's kind of bass in there.
Yeah.
Mantar and Barren Womb tour. Could you imagine? Oh, spank my ass and call me Sally.
All right.
My wife's working away. I'm horny as fuck. Right?
Yeah. If you heard the single that we played on the podcast, you'll know these guys. They're not particularly easy to pigeonhole into a sound or a one particular genre. There's a whole plethora of styles being melded into this album, from everything from noise rock to sludge to post-hardcore and math rock to punk to alternative, just like right across the fucking board. And yes, this is a two-piece. This is guitar and drums, and I think they both take a share of the vocals as well. I think the two of them are both kind of chipping in, which is kind of impressive, because when I heard this, I was like, this sounds like a fucking quartet or a quintet.
Minimum 4-piece. Minimum.
Yeah, it's just pretty fucking awesome. But I mean, I think there's obviously production down to that as well. You can hear there is layers there. You can hear additional parts, like guitar parts being recorded as well. But I get the feeling that this would just be as chaotic live as it is on this album, possibly even more so, to be honest. And you've probably guessed by the genres that they bring together, this isn't an album that really follows one particular formula. It's a very angular, twisted, quite gnarly album at times that throws a lot into the melting pot, so you're never quite sure where things are going to go next, to be honest. But that's not to say that there's not cohesion and motifs that the band use throughout the album to keep it grounded at times as well, because as off-kilter as this sounds, there's a bunch of hooks scattered right throughout this album.
So many.
Which I absolutely loved about the album. Tracks like Bug Out Bag, Campfire Chemist, Keep It Real, Squat Walker, all have melodies that'll easily get stuck in your head after hearing them. I heard quite a lot of Refused in some of the more melodic parts of this album. I agree with you, there's a Queens of the Stone Age vibe going on in it as well, especially on Campfire Chemist, but it works really well against that more like eccentric, kind of quirky kind of stuff they've got in the album. Stuff like Bachelor of Puppets, which is like quite sludgy and has a bit more of a kind of hardcore streak, but comes with all these really kind of like jerky rhythms and screechy kind of lead work. Or D Beatles, which I think is probably the best track title I've heard all year so far. But that track, unsurprisingly, is leaning towards that D-beat kind of punky hardcore side. All Out Anarchy on that track, which I loved. It's short and sharp, which a lot of these tracks are. It's not an album that outstays its welcome at all, and it's fairly kind of constant. Which this album is from start to finish. There's not a lot of space in any of this, to be honest. They are constantly filling it with a drum fill or something dissonant on the guitar. And I think as much as it keeps the energy up and the momentum of the album moving, I think that's my only kind of small kind of criticism of this. Is I think I was maybe missing just something with a bit of kind of breathing room in it. I think that would maybe just give them the kind of full sound throughout the album.
There's a space. I'm now thinking that the genre that they're in is dank punk instead of Daft Punk. Dank punk.
Dank punk.
Nice. That's the genre we're going to call them. Dank punk.
Dank punk. I like it.
Barren Womb, you can have that.
That aside, I love how fun and how catchy this can be against something that is so wiry and chaotic at the same time. I think this kind of take on noise rock or sludgy math rock or whatever is quite refreshing. I found it very heavily Scandinavian sounding, to be honest, when I heard it.
Look at me,
there's a certain character in the guitars and vocals that I felt really kind of radiated that. Tracks like Blackout Yoga for me had that like indie punk kind of rhythm in the guitars that made me think of a ton of Swedish and Norwegian bands. I think that's maybe why I kept thinking of Refused as well, every now and again. But then I agree with you. There are parts of this album that don't sound either like Sweden or Norway. I felt like Campfire Chemist was very American, almost like something straight out of Seattle or something like that. So I felt like it is a difficult one to kind of completely pin down as well. Once again, I love the fact that these guys are a duo. I think there's something in the chemistry of a duo that you cannot replicate with a full band.
It's becoming more prominent now, and I kind of love it.
Yeah. This feels so in sync, so tight. You know, like these guys are like physically connected, and I feel like that comes across massively on this album. And you can hear these guys are just having an absolute blast while doing this, especially vocally. I feel like there's a ton of personality coming across vocally here, but I think that's down to the fact there's two of them contributing on that front, so you get a real mix of like tones and textures, which makes this a really interesting listen. I did have a listen to their previous release, Lizard Lounge, and again, very eclectic.
I'm getting phoned, sorry. Apologies, ladies and gents.
Again, very eclectic. I could hear some really good singles from that album. Hairy Palms is an absolutely class track.
Hairy Palms.
If you go back at that previous album, Hairy Palms is awesome. But what I would say is Chemical Tardigrade, I think, has more of an overall consistency to it that works better as a whole album for me. I found this a more rewarding listen in terms of the hooks and the flow of it. How
many albums then are we saying? So you said 2011 and 2012 they formed.
Is this I think it's the fifth. This is the fifth album, I think.
The fifth album, right? So they have been like really consistent then in terms of releasing.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
How do we not know of them?
I don't know how this.
We were reviewing music during their kickoff and all the rest. It's just bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Wild. Anyway, scores. What we scoring the new Barren Womb album? What are you thinking?
This is a 4.5 from me. I am as soon as we come off this, now that I've expunged and exorcised the demons of my conversation and damn near named their genre, I'm going to go on and I'm going to check out the merch, see if I can import that shit. I thought I was going to have to import it from America. Scandinavia, a whole lot closer. Save me some of that import tax. I loved it. Like, this to me is the epitome of an infectious listen. I get to the end of it, I feel kind of great. I think Dung Lung finishes on such a high note, it kind of tempts you back in, you know, and then you go back through it again. There's so much character on the album and personality. It's difficult not to smell. It reminds me of a lot of bands I fucking love. And I think they've released a blinder. Yeah, well done, Barren Lung, now that I know where you're from.
Barren Lung?
4.5 from me. Yes, Barren Lung.
That's your new name, Barren Lung.
Barren Lung.
Dank
There's
punk
nothing in your lung. Dung Lung is now Dung Womb and Barren Lung. There better not be a band called Barren Lung, otherwise I will have ordered the wrong t-shirt. Can you imagine?
You've got the green lung, you just
fucking album. This isn't the right album. This band doesn't even exist. It's a clothing company. No, Barren Womb. Like, to me, I think this is one of these ones where I feel like this is under the radar territory because we just didn't know about them. I would say of all the reviews I've done today, there are better albums than this, but I would say this is the one I'm kind of punting for. This is what I'm saying. Take a chance. Listen to it. You will love it. Take a chance.
As Abba once said. I will.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. I will completely agree. 4.5 is where I'm coming in as well. Nice. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think, there's so much personality and character on this, and that's what I love about hearing new albums like this. These guys, they need to go over here. Like, I need to see this. Two-piece, I need to see it live.
Scotland is not that far, right? And I'm thinking there's a space, Dave, for us to insert ourselves into creating a festival that only puts on two-piece bands.
Oh, now you're talking.
You know what I mean?
You are talking.
And you know what we'll tell, like, because we're not in it to make money, the tickets will be 2 for 1. Telling you. There's a man tag, a wee bit of Tankzilla in there.
Tankzilla. A wee bit of fossils, maybe. Throw that.
Fossils would be a great shout, man. You know who's not getting invited?
Who?
That band that was moaning in Dundee. What's their name? Royal Blood or whatever it was. What's their name? Is it Royal Blood? Can't remember. They moaned. No one liked them because they were only a two-piece. I'm like, fuck you guys.
Shut up.
Write better music. Be Barren Womb.
Be Barren Womb. Easy as that. So the new Barren Womb album drops on February 16th on fucking North Pole Records.
Fucking North Pole.
And Blues for the Red Sun. Links below to the band and the pre-order, Bandcamp, all that shit. Check it out. Give this a listen. Doesn't disappoint. That is our review. Thank you for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
What could be a part of progress?